Hi there, welcome to my channel and my name is Abhishek, and from this video I am starting a series of projects and preferably I will be using Tableau or ClickSense as one of my tool, and I will be showing you those projects. And from this video onward and starting from this video you will start creating the project with me as I will be explaining, and then even if you get a chance, even you can further enhance it and show it to all the community either here or somewhere out there, to the data visualization community, about all the good and excellent work that you are doing. So let's get started, and before we move ahead I will suggest that if you are new to my video or new to my channel, then subscribe to my channel so that you will start getting notifications from me directly in your email inbox. Alright guys, so here is the data source that I will be using, and this is the FDI, which is foreign direct investment into the India. It's the data about that, and as you can see over here, the data is having some columns like sector and then the particular years in which FDI, the foreign direct investment, has come. So when we look at this, we look at sector like metallurgical industries, mining, power, coal production, boilers and steam generating, and telecommunications, so on and so forth. And overall it's like if you look at the data, then for almost around 63 industries or 63 sectors which are present over here. Okay, so this data is from the website, as you can see, visualize.data.gov.in, or if you go to data.gov.in, you will see a lot of data sets which are similar to this, related to the Indian government related data sets that they are publishing. And this is a pretty interesting data set because if you look at let's say if you are a startup or if you are working in an already established company who are looking to venture into a new area, let's say, which is like unexplored, then they would really like to know whether they can have a collaboration with any foreign company, and whether in that area the growth is increasing or decreasing, or what's the overall industry trend is saying about the development in the area of foreign direct investment, whether government is promoting that or they are declining. Then you can take the informed decision, and around that we will do the case study. So first of all, the case is in any case study or in any project, we first import the data. Alright, so let's go ahead and import the data. So let's go to Tableau, and since this data is in Microsoft Excel, I will just click on Microsoft Excel, and I will go to where this particular location is. It's back to my YouTube videos and case study and FDI case study. Alright, so here we are in the FDI case study. Right now nothing is coming over here, but I can use this data over here, the tab over here, and drag it on this screen, and now I get the data over here. But as you can see, the data is a bit messed up, and that's like common situation when you are getting the data from the web, right? Because you will see that there are some entries like this, and when you go down, powered by visualization, grand total, and so on and so forth. So you would really not like to get those sort of values. So one thing which usually gets done is either you are doing that within the Microsoft Excel and removing all of those rows, or you are using the power of Tableau to do that. So how you can do that is by clicking over here, use data interpreter. So once you do that, you will see that very quickly and very finely Tableau has completed, or Tableau has done that data cleaning for ourselves. If you look at, columns are coming properly, and if you go down, all that rows which were showing some information like the site is powered by what and XYZ information which were coming in 2 or 3 rows have gone, and you have only the grand total. It's now up to us whether we want to filter it or not. Let's say if we want to filter it, so what we can do is come over here, add a filter, click on add, and look at sector, click OK. Sector, all of the sector excluding grand total. So what we can do is, first let's say click on none. So we are at this position about how we start or where we started, and just click on exclude, and we want to exclude the grand total, right? And click OK, and click OK. So now we don't have grand total at the end. All right, so this is the way. This is how very quickly you can do the data cleaning with the help of the data interpreter. And if you want to review the result, you can even click on over here, which will open up an Excel spreadsheet, and this will highlight what the data interpreter has done, or it basically does for interpreting or for cleaning the data. So this is the data which it has selected, as you can see, and then data subtables, and then finally what they have identified to be presented. And over here, this is basically the color coding. Is data is interpreted as the values in your data source, data is interpreted as a column in your header. This, if it has this border of red, so this border shows data has been excluded from your data source. And if it is like white, sort of a background, or it has white as a background, so data is ignored and not included as part of your data source. So that's what it has been shown over here about these white entries, about this column selection and all. Okay, so that's about it. So I will close this and come to Tableau. Now we have imported the data, we have cleaned the data, and next thing is, if you look at one problem that I see with data source, which will create a problem for us, is these columns which are coming as the column names into this data set. So this is a wide format data set, a very common wide format from the organizations like government organization or any other non-profit public organization. They basically put this cross tabular sort of a structure, which is good for viewing but not for analyzing. I always suggest we should convert it into a long format so that all of these values, which are year value, is coming in the dimension, and with that dimension we can play around a lot. So what we'll do is, I will just select this and go towards right on the 2016-17. I have not selected yet because I will press shift and then click over here. So all of my columns are now selected, and I can just be on any column. Say for example, I just come over here and click on pivot. All right, so now you see that our data has, or the shape of the data has been changed. Very important decision that you need to make about how you want to do the analysis, because wide format is good for viewing and long format is good for analyzing. And now I'm changing this field name by double clicking on field name and calling it year. All right, and pivot field value. So pivot field value is something which is FDI. We can call it FDI with the foreign direct investment value. So by this column we can very easily identify our column. So we have now 3 columns, only 3 columns from those 16 or 18 columns. First is sector, second is year, and third is FDI. Now I see one more problem in terms of representation of the data, is something like we have year 2000/2000/01, which basically indicate the financial year 2000, and then financial year 2004 and 2006 and so on and so forth. That's how basically government tracks everything in their respective financial year. But this is good when some government official is doing this, but for analyzing the result, we would really like to clean it. At least from my perspective, there will be different perspective of yours based on the situation. So what I need to do is I just need to extract, or I just need to substitute basically this particular text, or easier way is just extract the first 4 values from each cell, and it will give me the proper year value. So to do that, what we need to do is we need to click over here and click on the create calculated field, and let's say we have already called it year, so let's say we call it financial year, I guess will be good, FY or financial year, right? So to do that, we need to write a small formula. So let me bring it over here, and what we need is basically left comma 4. That means first 4 values from left. So if we look at over here, left returns the specified number of characters from the start of given string. Example, left calculation 4 will return calc CALC4, and we need the 4 characters in even in our case. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and let's click OK. So what do we got here? 2000. Yep, absolutely fine. So what I can do now, I can hide this. Okay, so once I have hide it, I have the better looking data for myself. So now what I can do is I can go to worksheet by clicking over here. So over here, if you are not familiar, let me just give you a quick idea. This is basically the two important areas are over here within the data section, which are dimension and measure, which will be playing around a lot, and this is the canvas on which we will be building the visualization. All right, and another thing is these rows and columns, very similar to your Excel rows and columns. It's just that when we visualize the data, the meaning or the way it shows the information changed a lot from spreadsheet, and all of these marks area is to help us make the visualization more intuitive. So what do we need to do? So for us, I have identified few questions like over here in the analytics question. So we have imported the data, we have unpivoted the data, we have cleaned it, we have moved to the sheet for visualization. So we are basically at step 4 over here. So the questions are that we need to answer is from 5 to 15. It's basically the 10 different questions that we are looking at from this project perspective. So what do we need to do is first need to identify these 2 questions which are similar in nature. That basically is saying highest value for FDI and its sector in latest year, and the lowest value of FDI and its sector in latest year, right? So what do we need over here is sector. So I'm just dragging the sector from the dimension to rows. I can just simply select whatever I need, like in this case sector, and I can drag it. And all of the sector information is coming over here, and if you can see, this is a sorted value. So starting from A and going all the way up to the last value, which is V. So whenever you are bringing the value over here, it will not come in the data source order, which probably you are used to of it whenever you are working in other, let's say, software which is bringing you the data in the data source order. Okay, so once we have this, what we can bring in is the FDI value that they have got so far, right? And if I go back over here, and this number is over here, all of these numbers I believe will be in what in India how they calculate is, or how they measure is in crores. So 1 crore is basically 10 million, right? So 10 million is equal to 1 crore, and then you can do the math to do that calculation. So over here I will be using the unit as crore for specifying the values, or whenever we are doing any calculation in the Tableau. Alright, so here we are in Tableau, and all of these values are over here with me, which I am now dragging it a little bit to see it properly. So what do I need? I need the maximum value that we have, that each of these sectors have got. So one way of doing it is having the financial year. First of all, we need to identify the latest financial year. And sorry, let me do it again. So I am dragging the financial year to filters, okay, and then selecting 2016, because we need the most recent financial year. So click apply. As you can see, the values have changed, and click OK. So now we have the most recent values, and if I do a sorting like this, when I clicked it over here, as you can see, it has sorted in the descending order, and we can, within just a couple of seconds, we can see the list. Like services sector is on the top in 2016, and I believe even in the previous sectors that it has got the maximum funding. So it's basically top 3 or top 5 is basically services sector, telecommunication, computer software and hardware, trading, and electric equipments. So it's you can get an idea about what are those top 5 industries that you can report to your management, or if let's say they are looking towards you and you are an investment analyst or a person who is assisting them identifying the areas, then you can give those 5 or 10 areas in which India has got the maximum foreign direct investment, and that information is very valuable in terms of deciding what we need to do. But that's not the only criteria, and slowly we will see what are all the other criteria that we can build up upon to give that information. All right, so now the situation is that we have this information, right? But we want to make it a little bit dynamic from the perspective that we only want to get the maximum, or let's say if the year is changing, we always want to get the maximum year, that means the latest year, and we always want to get the first single value as the where we have got the most highest, or maybe first 3, that's it, first 5, not like the entire list, right? So if you need the entire list, then this is how you can do it. But let's say you want to make it the financial year as the dynamic filter, and that's where the fun is coming into the picture, because now we are moving from static to dynamic values. So what we can do is we can click on this pill over here, click on the edit filter, and we will go to top. But before going to top, we need to click on all, right? Because we don't know what is the latest value. Let's say if this is what the data you have been given, you just want system to identify what is the maximum value of the financial year, which is nothing but the latest value. So you want only, let's say, top 1 value, the first value, and for that you want financial year as maximum, okay? And let's click apply over here and click OK. So now you can see that you are not seeing any change, because by default we had selected the maximum year. So what we have done, just to revisit that, as you can see, we have all the years selected, but we are selecting only the maximum value of financial year, which will always give us the maximum value. So so far this is what we have figured it out, but we are not getting only the one value, because there is nothing which has been applied on the sector. So if we put sector over here on the filter, here we can see all the sectors, and we want the top sector over here, and we want just the first top sector by FDI, and click apply. And now we have got our value, and this is how we have made our KPI, or a very simple KPI, which will basically we can highlight in our dashboard that this is the top services sector value, which is giving us the in which we have got the maximum FDI. So that's number one we have got. So we will rename this to maximum FDI, right? And I created one sheet by clicking over here, but what I can do is, instead of applying all of these logic again, what I can do is right click over here and click duplicate. So now this is again duplicated. So what do I need to do is, first of all, double click over here, make it minimum of FDI. So I'm saying min of FDI, and after that I will just have to reverse this sector. So I will come over here, click on edit filter, and instead of top I will say bottom. But in bottom, the problem is, if I click apply, we will see 0, right? And 0 is where the coir as an industry in which you are getting the FDI. So let me go to the sheet 2 and first look at the sector and FDI over here for the financial year, which is 2016, and click OK. And if I sort it, this is how the value is coming. So over here, if you see that industrial instruments has got the lowest subsidy, or sorry, the lowest FDI, and followed by fertilizer, tea and coffee, and leather related industries. So 0 is basically does not indicate a very good value over here, and I feel that somehow we should pick up something like fertilizer or industrial instruments, or maybe like top 3 or 4, where at least not in zeros, where we are not getting anything over here. So how we can do that is it's basically by going to the sector, click on edit filter, and let's say I want bottom 5 in this case, click apply. So bottom 5 are 0, as you can see, and if I just say bottom 10, then what I get is this value. So this somehow give me a good idea about it, that okay, what are those least 10 industries, or least 10, those sectors in which you have got the least FDI or very less FDI. So this is something which we can report much more meaningful, instead of just saying coir. Doesn't give a much relation with or information related to the sectors which have got the very less FDI in latest year. Okay, so click OK in this case. So what we have got is the maximum FDI, and just to make it consistent, what I'll do is, or what will be good is getting the top 10 values over here. So this will be our KPI table, and we can rename it. As you can see, I just double clicked on it to change it, and we can either change it here or we can change it on dashboard. So I will change it even here, top 10 sectors who not how, I don't know what is wrong with me, who got maximum FDI, and I will just remove, apply, and it should not be who, which, if we go by a proper English. Maximum FDI. Click OK. So top 10 sectors who got the maximum FDI, and copy this. I don't want to write it again. Minimum FDI, and double click, control V, got minimum FDI. All right. space, and click OK. So now we are good. Top 10 and least 10, or not, bottom 10. Okay, cool. So now this is this. So we have done the work on the two KPIs. Let me go to the sheet again. Look at the analytics questions, and after that, what do we have is basically trend of overall foreign direct investment, and we should have the capability to filter to select any individual sector. All right, so for that I am again coming back, and on sheet 3, just to remove everything, what I can do is drag out this here, drag out this here, drag this out here, and what we need is the financial year. So I will put that on columns, and we need FDI over here, and a pretty easy and very straightforward intuitive chart has been created for us, where we are looking at the FDI that we have got over a period of year. Now bar chart is okay, looking fine, but how about I was thinking of a line chart. So if you look at the line chart over here, so what it needs is basically one date and 0 or more dimension, 1 or more measure. What I was wondering that 2000 is basically the year, and but if you look at Tableau is not considering it as a year, and that's why over here it's just it's a calculated value. As you know, we have cleaned the value to remove the financial, to remove that extra 01 or 02 out at from the end, and just extracted the first 4 value, but it needs to be converted into a date data type. So what I'll do is change data type and click on date. As soon as I clicked on date, you can see that your chart has changed to a line chart, a clear indication of what has really happened, right? So this could be one of the reason, if you are wondering sometimes that you have taken the year, but for some reason this chart is not coming, then what has really happened? So just you need to go back over here and make sure that the data type is the date, right? But the situation that you are getting over here is this 1/1/2000, 2001/1/2001. So what you can do, which is a very simple thing, is just come over here and click here, right? So now all of you, or all of this information is in a properly formatted way, and over here you are seeing the FDI. So pretty interesting points are coming. So in the year 2010, FDIs went down drastically from this point, from 2008, first in 2009 and then in 2010. Then it moved on 2011. So I think what happened in 2008 is I think government was in one of their second last year, and in the last year, because of maybe some sentiments and all in terms of the elections that were scheduled in 2009, that's why probably the FDI gone down, because maybe a sentiments into the investors that whose government will come and what will be the policies, and then further it went down in 2010, maybe building upon on that sentiments. But it may be the reason of, if you are aware that at the start of 2008, or maybe from Feb or March, there was a financial crisis and a subprime mortgage crisis in US, which led to overall downturn in the economy, and maybe because of that this has happened. So a very two very compelling cases why the FDI had gone down in 2009 and 2010 in India, and then it went and it jumped in 2011, and probably by that time there was a bit of a recovery from the from that financial crisis. Companies were getting revived, and with the help of a lot of packages that they were receiving, and maybe that actually led to the revival. But not sure what really happened in 2012, right? So it's a case of building up a story. As you can see, I am revealing some of the facts about what has happened at that period of time, and that is something you basically figure it out and start building upon your stories. So if it is like 5-minute, 10-minute story on this particular chart that you want to write, these are your crucial points about what really happened. And this point, what really happened over here, that subsidy, or I'm sorry, I'm saying subsidy again, I don't know why, but this is FDI, went from 5,540 crores, which is basically 5.5 billion, to 12 billion, almost, or more than double, if not almost more than double, what really happened in this case. So this is an interesting thing to see what really happened over there, and these points which are clearly revealing something drastic changes have been done. All right, so that's about specifying the events. But to make the chart little more interesting, what we can do is, first thing is, we can specify the labels over here. So FDI is something what we can put it on labels, and now we have the clear values. And once we have clear values, we don't need this, right? So what you can do is come over here and click on show header. Okay, and that's how you can get a very simple chart which looks very intuitive and clearly indicating the values of FDI and how the FDI have gone from 2000 to 2016. All right, let's move on. Now I will show you something really interesting over here. So far, this is our default way of creating a chart, but if you want, first of all, you can change the size. Let's say if you are interested in more thick line, you can change the size, and as you can see, the line has become a bit more thick. But somehow I really like this much thickness. It's pretty good. After that, what you can do is, the way it is creating its path, right? You can come to this path marks and change the path, and this is where I find it very interesting. So once I click over here, this is the line type, which is a default, but this is a step line chart, a pretty interesting line chart. So if I click over here, very clearly you can see how the steps, how in each step FDI has increased or decreased, right? A very intuitive and very useful chart in showing the blocks, how the blocks have been created. And if you are like becoming more and more creative, you can use the jump type instead of line, that from this to this to this to this, how jumps have been taken into the moving years or the forward years when you have got the FDI, right? So this is about what sort of chart. I really like line chart, this step line chart, so I will just keep the step line chart over here for my dashboard. It looks a bit different from the traditional line chart and speaks a lot when you are looking into some sort of this type of data, which has a lot of peaks and a lot of ups and downs. All right, so once we have done that, I think we have the next question. So we have got the trend of overall foreign direct investment, and then filter to select any individual sector. So what do we need? A filter, and filter of sector, and I will click all for here, click apply and OK. But I will come again over here and click on show filter. So this is one way of doing it, but a shortcut way is, let's say if I just remove this, I will just come over here and click on show filter. In just one click you can do that. All right, so what we can do is we can filter based on, let's say we want food processing, and we just want a food processing industry. So first of all, need to remove that and food and click over here. So clearly you can see that the FDI was a bit stagnant between 46 and 219 for almost like 10 years, but something really happened in 2013. And this is a sort of event where somebody would really be interested in viewing what really happened over there, and then move down. But if you look at still growth from 401 to 516, and then in 2016 727. So something pretty interesting is going over there. And an interesting event has happened in 2013, which you want to look at. So if food, apart from food, you can have like railway related stuff. What has happened in railway? So again in 2013, so 2013 seems like a significant year in which a lot of jump has been seen, and even in this case. Or if you want to look at power, that's how the area looks like. So now you are giving a lot of flexibility where your user can look at all the sector, or the individual sector, or the sectors which are like this. For example, services sector, where we have got the maximum FDI. So we will just uncheck that, services sector, and we will see that from 2006 onwards we have started getting a lot of FDI movement over here. And I think from then, from 2006 onwards, there were a lot of interest, a lot of companies were coming and setting up the BPOs and financial services, KPOs, and the research facilities over here. So service sector is basically gaining a lot of popularity, and as you can see, it is growing. It has gone down in 2013, which is completely opposite to the last two examples that we had seen, where those two industries have got a significant jump, but the services have seen a lot of distraction, or a lot of less FDI in 2013. So it's completely opposite. A pretty interesting story. So this is how you can basically set it up for your user. So we are done with that, and we will see this FDI over the years, right? We will create one more sheet over here, and for that, now let's look at a grouping of sectors. Now for that, we don't need to create a lot of or a sheet over there. So grouping of sectors, let's try to achieve this. So what do we have is basically sectors. If I click over there on that pill and click create and go to group, to basically group the sectors. So what is happening over here is there will be a lot of different sectors that you may want to combine together. For example, construction, right? Clearly you can see that construction related activities, construction development. So it's definitely two things which are related. And if we look at anywhere else where we see that construction related a category has been given, then we can take that up. So what do we have is consultancy, electrical, and over here mining. Nope, nothing related to that. And no, I don't see anything which is related to that. So maybe what we can do is just combine these two, and in future whenever something new is coming, we can combine into construction. So let's click on construction. Okay. Apart from that, then we have something like computer, software, hardware, and is it whether education, I don't know, maybe we can do that or no. Information and broadcasting doesn't look like it's including print media. Photography, raw. So as you can see, this is more of a business sort of a requirement about how you want to group two industries together. So for example, mathematical, drawing, surveying and drawing instrument, and then maybe education, because both are somehow related. Paper and pulp, including paper product, and petroleum gas. No, nothing related to that. maybe we can group those two just for this example, and we call it education. And then maybe drug and pharmaceuticals, then I don't know, maybe chemicals. Just for the example I'm trying to create. Do I get anything else? Nope, I don't think I have anything else which I can combine, or which looks a bit intuitive to be combined with the drugs. So medicines, and so medicines, and I want to just rename it to medicines and chemical. Okay, so I think I was just renaming this incorrectly. Chemicals. Okay, so construction chemicals. So this way you can basically combine the multiple groups and create it a grouped category, and it is useful to sometimes to even see it into a sort of a group. So something like which I have done, I have tried to identify the similar categories, but there can be other sort of groups, like groups in which you are having the most FDIs, which are basically the groups created on the values, not on the names. So first of all, let's see this. Click OK. So now you have created a sector group. What you can do is, once you will bring it over there, you will not see much of a difference, because still a lot of values have not been grouped together. But if you see, if I just go over there and click on edit group, there is medicine and chemicals. So I believe we should have got something like medicine and chemicals over there. Medicine and chemicals, this is something that we created, right? So this is the way the information will come. And if I bring in FDI, you will see that this information, the 28,000 crores, will basically come as the combined figure. That means in the backend, you don't have to really write that long if statements. If let's say there are 15 categories that you need to combine, then you can simply create a group, right, like this. And this is the main idea to tell you why you need to create the group, right? And then I told you about another type of grouping, which is based on values. So something like over here, let's say you want to create a group on these values. So basically identifying wherever the FDI investment is in the range of this particular value, right? So to do that, what you can do is, so first of all, creating on this will be a bit problem, because this is overall. So what I'll do is, I will just take, for example, chemicals. Yeah, looks like a good example. So what I'll do is, I will just select some of the values, like from here to here. So as you can see, these data points have been created, right? And this, from this screen, I come over here, which is basically creating a set. So if I click on create a set, that's basically creating a set on the financial years, right? So all for these financial years, if I want to create a group which is basically based on these financial years, then I can basically say mid years, right? This is add to filter self. No, click OK. And this is where mid years I have just created, or I could say from 2005 to 2009. Now this example where we have created mid years, you will find that it's very similar. There is nothing much of a change. You could have done it even in the groups. So the important part is that sets provide a lot of dynamic behavior, and let's see now how we can identify that dynamic behavior. So again, I will be on financial year. I will not be here, but I will be on financial year, and I will go on create and click on set, right? And once we are here, then we can go on to the condition, and on this condition let's see FDI over 1000. Okay, that means FDI over 1000 crores. So that means identifying those sectors in which we have got the FDI over 1000. So by field and FDI, sum of FDI is 1000. Okay, so this condition is making our set dynamic. We are not dependent on year, we are not depending on any value. We are simply saying that whatever that sector is, whatever that year is, give me the FDI which is over 1000, and click OK. Once we have this, so what we can do is let's come over here and we will so over here, and we will just bring the FDI amount in or out. So out is basically saying that FDI is out of the condition that we have specified, but what I'm seeing over here is everything is out, and that doesn't make a lot of sense. So let me go into there and click on edit set, and it's basically equals to, I can do is greater than or equal to, and click OK. And now everything is coming, which is again not giving us the correct value. So let me just check the definition once again. Right, where did I click? Edit set, general, and here is a summary. So field is financial year. Okay, so I think that's what we are doing wrong, because the financial year is not present over here. So what I'll do is I will just delete this, delete it, yes, and as you can see it has removed from here. What I need to do is come over here on the sector and create set. So I was picking up the wrong field, so we'll say FDI over 1000 crores, so greater than or equal to 1000. Same setting, it's just the field name has to be correct. So FDI over 1000, and now let's bring it again, and now it's clearly giving me the value over here. So if agriculture has the FDI over a period of 2000 to 2016, what are those values which are in or out, right? So this is how very clearly you can identify in just couple of seconds what are those FDIs which are in and out. Another interesting thing that you can do is, instead of putting it over here, what you can do is put it over here on the color, and in or out, blue indicates in and gray indicates out, which is not a very clear indication. So you can come over here on click color, click on edit color, and say out to red, and click apply, and very easily you can identify those sectors which have got the FDI in those years that is below 1000 crores, which is 1 billion. So this is something which as you can see is pretty easy about grouping. I have explained you two different types of groupings. So now let's move on to next question, which is FDI in top 5 sectors. I believe I have already covered it. So FDI, maximum FDI is something we were creating the KPI, but eventually what we created is basically a KPI based table. The top 5, not even top 5, we have created top 10 sectors. So I think we have pretty much covered over here about this point. So these points have been covered. Sectors that reported high growth in FDI in last 5 years, and sectors that reported high decline in FDI in last 5 years. Pretty much same, but we need to figure out the formula for that, and then basically create a visualization. So here we will call it grouping sets. Okay, and we'll click over here and create a new sheet to say high growth FDI sectors. So to do that, first let's take sector. These are the sectors. Financial year, we are taking financial year over here, and then the FDI. Now this is the FDI, the sum of FDI that we have got. To create the growth, which is year over year growth, we will click over here and quick table calculation, and we will use the inbuilt calculation, which is year over year growth. Once we click over here, you will see that the calculation has changed to percentage, and you are seeing that 2000 value of 2000 has gone because it has nothing that it can compare to previous value. That means the value of 1999 is not given, and in such cases the first value will always be blank or zero in such cases whenever we are doing a growth. So over here, this is how the growth looks like, but what we need is in the last 5 years. So what I need to do is financial year, click on year, and top, what I need is top 5, top 6, because 5, if I will keep 5, it will not give me the value of the first year. Financial year, let's see this, what comes. All right, I think we are good, and click OK. So it's giving me top 6 by count. That's not the case. Minimum, click apply. Yep, that's okay. So 2012, 13, 14, 15 and 16, and on 16 I will just click and come over here and click over here, sort descending, and these are my high growth sectors in FTI where we have received the highest growth, like glue and gelatin, and then cement and gypsum, and scientific instruments and electrical equipment, all of these guys. So this basically gives us a complete information about what are our high growth sectors, and sectors where the growth is gone pretty, defense industries like minus 100%. That means that has gone almost like zero. So a quick list, and to basically do the opposite, we will just duplicate it. Growth, high growth FDI sectors, and we will call it low growth FDI sectors, and we will put it like this. Over here I will just click and put it in the descending order, sorry, ascending order. I'll just click over here and ascending order, and over here there is nothing which is coming, so no value is over here. Down there you will see the growth sector where the growth has gone way below to the industry, or way below, or it's going down. And the one which we saw in the previous example is the defense industries, followed by fertilizers, mining, so on and so forth. So this gives you an indication where the growth is going down. This gives you the indication where growth is going up. So we have the two different chart sectors that reported high growth, sector that reported the decline. So now either we can create two different charts, or these two conditions are getting satisfied in one single chart. So in my view, I will just delete it, because I am giving all of the information in just one single chart or one single metric. There is no point in creating another one. All right, so let's save this. To save it, what I'll do is I will go to my desktop, YT case study, and FDI case study, or I'll say FDI project. Simple. Okay, so we are here now. The next question: which sectors has the most variation in FDI? Very interesting question. So to do that, what I'll do is I will just give it a name as variation. Alright, so to do that, what we need to do is FDI, click on FDI and the sector, and over here we are here in the show me, and to show the variation, one of my favorite chart is the box and whisker plot. So once I click over there, you can see that this is how the value is coming. Sometimes there may be a scenario where you are getting one single chart. So what you can do is come over here in the analysis. If this option is enabled, aggregate measure, then uncheck that and just make sure that your setting looks like this, that in columns you have sector, in rows you have FDI, and this should not be checked, otherwise you will not get a view like this. Okay, so once you do this, what I can do further is swap it to see it properly. Right now a lot of values are not coming. I can clearly see this value is somewhere here, this value is here, but we don't know what value is this because it is not displayed. So I will just click over here, which is swap rows, and the shortcut is Control W. I highly recommend that you use the shortcut, and I will also use the shortcut. So Control W, and because shortcut makes us look a little bit more professional, we are not just using our mouse. I believe that. So let's move on, and let's click on the sorting, and within just 1 second I can clearly identify the sector, which is services sector, where we have seen the more variation. So this basically shows the lowest, the 99.9 percentile value, and then what is a median over here, what is the value over here, which is at the higher whisker and the lowest whisker. So all of this is basically a statistical chart, which is 5 number summary or box and whisker plot, which gives a lot of detailed value. And in just one shot, I can clearly see the variation into the values, the different data points, how much it has varied over a period of time when they have got it. So this way, give me a good indication. And over here, it clearly sees that from where the value have really started, and where is the lowest whisker, highest whisker, median value is higher over here. That means on an average the telecommunication has got the more FDI as compared to these two sectors, even though they have the maximum values or showing the maximum data points, but on an average this is higher because it has a higher median. So this sort of information I can clearly get, and this is my variation chart. Alright, let's now go ahead and see another question that we have. And for that, so the question is proportion of each FDI, each sector in FDI. So to do that, what we can do is we can come over here and create like proportion of FDI. And to see the proportion of each FDI, what we need to do is select the sector and the FDI, and then go ahead and select this chart, which is a tree map chart. Now this clearly shows us the proportion that each sector is having for their respective FDI that they have got. Now this is showing us for all of the years, but what you can do is bring the year over here on the filters, come over here next, and just go to 2016 and click OK. And you can even right click and show the filter. So for the entire duration or for a specific period, we can basically choose this. And if this is a long list, what you can do is come over here and multiple values and drop down, and now you can choose like 2015 and 16 perspective if you want to see, or if you just want to see 2015, you can see that values are changing accordingly. Or if you want to see 2014, 2013, in 2013 food processing was the biggest one, followed by the services sector, but then 2014 services sector actually jumped, food is nowhere, and we see telecommunication, trading and all. So a lot of visibility is will be there once you will see the proportion, how it is changing over a period of year. So that's about how you can show the proportion of each of these charts. Now let's move on to the next question, which is, are there some specific clusters that are present there? So to do that, let's create this sheet 8, and to identify this, what we can do is sector, bring the sector, again the FDI, and from the analytics pane, only the cluster, as you can see, is enabled. So bring the cluster over here. So once we bring the cluster, the number of cluster is automatic, but you can define like 3, 4, 5, how many cluster. So clustering, if I give you some idea, it's basically a data science term which is a statistical way to identify the similar properties by looking at how values are close to each other. And from our data set, it has identified 11 clusters. So let's work with this. That means it has identified from those 100 or near about 100 values, like 72 or 73 values, that sectors that we have, is divided into 11 clusters. That means they have shown the similar property in a way they have attracted the FDIs. Okay, so if I close this for now, and for a better representation, because this does not make a lot of sense, or my eye will have to do a lot of hard work, and I even can't think that I can show it to someone else. So I go to show me and come over here on this packed bubble chart and click over here. Now it is much better and very interesting visualization, which is clearly indicating these two, and this one is basically the cluster which are having the same properties. Same way, these 4 is having the same property. Cluster 9 is the only one which is different, and then cluster 11. And that's way, once you analyze this, doesn't make much of a sense that cluster 11 and cluster 9 should be much of a difference. So what you can do is you can always come back and change how many clusters you want. And over here, it's like a small grouping, which is cluster 1, indicating the clustering. I think the maximum is 1000 crores, and followed by 111, 158 crore. So this way you can intuitively present the clusters to your to your customer or stakeholders. So after that, the last question that we have is, what is the forecast for next year? Pretty interesting question, right? So what we need to do is we need to create a financial year chart. So financial year in column, FDI is over here. Sorry, I put it at the wrong place, I guess. Okay, take the line chart. This is my line chart, and if I come over here, analytics pane, I see that forecast is present to me. So once I bring the forecast over here, in just couple of seconds, now I have the forecast available for 2017 and 2018. So up until like 2015 is something where it has given us and showed us that 2016 the overall FDI will be 39,000 crores. So let's see this for all. So 39,000. So 2015 is 40,000 crores, and over here, yeah, it is 40,000. But for FDI, it is saying that there will be a slightly drop, but that's not what the case is. It has gone up. But in the future year, it is saying that in 2017, 41,000, and in 2018, 44,000 is the FDI that you will going to get. So this is basically an estimation, and this is basically the upper and lower boundary of the estimation that is there, which gives some indications about how the variation looks like, and looks like there is a lot of variation, but there are always some better technique. This is just out of the box forecast technique that is available, that is in front of us. So that's one way of looking at it. Another way is I believe is the trend line, which I will say just a linear trend line. And over here, if you can interpret it, it's basically a linear equation where FDI formula is given, that FDI you can predict it by 6.77645 multiply with the year of financial year plus minus 248050, which looks like a pretty big range, and the R square value is 79, which means that you can depend on that value. and p-value is saying 0.001. In statistics, if the value is below 0.005, then you can accept that model. Again, a very basic information about the forecasting. So as you can see, this is how the forecast line looks like, and this is even our forecast is saying, so it's pretty much on the same line over there. So that's how you can forecast and create the future values for your data. So we have covered all these different questions that we had identified. Now it's just a matter of how we want to put it in our dashboard. So why don't we just go ahead and try something like putting it. So first of all, I will take one horizontal and then one vertical over there. So what I'll do is first I will bring some values or the FDI over here, and then another one over here. Okay, and yeah, so looks okay. And then after FDI over the years, I will keep it over here, and it has brought its own filter. After that, you have grouping sets, nothing much of a value. High growth FDI sector, probably I don't want. I want a variation. How the variation looks like, looks good. Proportion of FDI. Now I need some space, so what I can do is, depends on what my requirements are, either I create a separate dashboard based on what are the things that I want to look at, or over here, or let me just create one more where I can simply say the proportion of FDI, and then over here how is the clustering looks like, or maybe I can just keep it over there, and here over here I will just keep the line chart, which will give me a good indication that some statistical related information, the clustering, the forecasting line, and the proportion of the FDI. So if somebody wants to do a much more in-depth analysis, so I can create like these two different dashboards for my users. Again, there is a lot of scope to improve it. This is just for the reference and for the presentation purpose, where you can always change this. First of all, the name over here, give a proper title. But one thing I will make you aware is the sector. Sectors are basically related to these two charts, variation and FDI. So what we can do is come over here and say customize, and within the customize, no, not in the customize, apply the worksheet, selected worksheet, and so we want to, it's already applied on FDI over the year, and I will just click over there, variation, and click OK. Now if I select this, I can simply see the variation and the chart updated accordingly. Otherwise, only this chart would have been updated if we had not changed the settings. So remember, you have the option of apply to worksheet. Also, you have the option of selecting multiple value drop down. This way you will free up that unnecessary space which is coming. Also, you can keep it at the top over there, and this way your chart will look much better and you can see the values like this, which is much simpler and easy, as well as you get more space for your chart, which now looks a little bit more organized. So these are few of the techniques, and obviously there are more techniques that one can apply. So I will keep showing you in my upcoming videos, but I hope you have enjoyed this FDI case study, where we have looked at a lot of different things. We have had a lot of troubleshooting things and how things basically works, and went into a lot of different options. So if you have enjoyed it, please do like it and share it wherever possible, so that more and more words are getting spreaded about it. I will keep the data here in the comment section, in the description section as well in the comment section so that you can utilize this data. And I would love to see what you have created apart from what I have already shown you. And if it is something which is very beautiful, then why not share it with the community? So I would really love to see what you have created. Please do share a link in the comments, and I will be glad to go through it. Thank you for staying with me for this entire hour for this particular case study and project. Hi there, welcome back to my channel, and today I will show you the second video of my project series. So I hope you enjoyed the first video where I talked about a lot of different techniques by which you can explore the data and finally predict the data and put everything in a dashboard. So after that series, or after that video, in this series, the next video again will be about data science, where I will be showing you how you can plot histograms, how you can plot correlations, and then finally everything put together in a dashboard. And for sure, we will try to achieve some dynamic behavior. So make sure you are watching all of these techniques till the end of this video and gain maximum out of it. And before I move ahead and start showing you, don't forget to subscribe it if you have not already subscribed to my channel, and please do share so that you are sharing the information along with me. Thank you. Alright, so here we are in our data set, and this is an air quality data which is used in the R programming, or as part of the R architecture or R studio. You will see this air quality data as part of an integral of the R system, and I have taken the data from there. And for you, what I'll do is I will put it into a easy to use or easy to download form in a Google Drive, which I usually do, so that you can use it. So what it has is some of these columns like ozone, solar, wind, temperature, month, and day. So it's basically on which day and what is a month, what is the temperature. So basically it's about predicting the temperature based on the variables like wind, solar, ozone, month, and day. So this gives a particular temperature and says this is the 7.4 is basically the value that they recorded for wind. Thus for solar rays, they captured the value of 190, and for ozone they captured the value of 41. Let me get a bit of a definition so that if you are really understanding in getting the definition, you can get it. So here is something which I have. Okay, let me paste special as values. So here is ozone, that basically mean or average ozone in parts per billion from 1300 to 1500 hours at Roosevelt Island. And then solar radiation, and wind is basically average wind speed in miles. And then temperature, so maximum daily temperature that they recorded in Fahrenheit at LaGuardia Airport. So that's basically a definition, and if you are interested in knowing more about it, you can basically type this and you will find more information in the Google about it. But what we really want is try to understand the impact of these three variables on the temperature based on how they recorded in a particular month or on a particular day. So let's go ahead and try to get this data inside Tableau. So what do we have is basically it's a CSV file. So I will click over here and click on air quality. So over here we have this column F1, which is nothing but a serial number. So what I'll do is I will click over here and hide it because it is having no use. Then another interesting thing with the ozone is it has identified it as a ABC, that means a string. So I need to convert it into a number so that I can use it for my analysis. So I'll go ahead, click on ABC and click on the number whole. And now as soon as I have changed the number, if you have observed, all the NAs have been converted into the null values, which is basically a property of the number values, that if it is a number it will be null, if it is a string then it will be NA. Let's see if there is anything else. So month is fine, day is fine, so we are good to go. But what is the treatment of null values over here? Because null values create a lot of problems when we analyze the data, and their treatment is required. And there are various ways by which data scientists or data analysts treat it. Either first thing is you completely remove it, that's number one. Number two is generally the technique which is used is using the average or mean or mean, median or mode after analyzing the data. Or they used some sort of a regression technique like a simple linear regression, or maybe a little bit modified based on how the data is behaving, and forecast the value of each null value and put it over there, which is like a slightly advanced technique of imputing the missing values. That's what the technical word is, imputing the missing values. For us, for this tutorial perspective, what I'll do is simply go ahead and remove it. So I will add the filter, click add, and first let me see in how many cases we have null. So in case of ozone and solar we have null. Yeah, apart from that, if I just go down, I don't see anywhere else it is null. So I will simply go ahead and say click add and pick the ozone, and I will exclude the null. Click OK. I will add again solar, and this is a range of value. It's an issue. If I say spatial non-null values, got it? So if you are coming in sort of a situation, then this is how you need to resolve it. Click OK and OK. So now all my null values have been removed. And solar.r doesn't make a lot of sense. So what I'll do is double click over here and remove the solar. So now the values are properly coming, and the label has been changed properly. So the next part is to go into a sheet. All right. So once we go into the sheet, the very first thing I would like to do is understand the pattern of the data and then try to have an understanding whether this pattern is having an impact on the temperature, which is over here. But before we do that, one observation which I have is the month over here. So month is, sorry, the ozone is coming over here as dimension. However, that's not the case. So what I'll do is I will click over here and I will convert it to a measure. That's one thing. Or I can drag it and my ozone measure is now here. So both the option works for me. After that, once we have done that, what I need to do is I need to keep I can just go ahead and select ozone and come over here and show me, and if you see I have an histogram. So once I click on the histogram, there is a sort of a bar chart that has been created for me, but this is different from bar chart because this is just based on one single measure. And if you don't know about the histograms, they are basically a statistical chart which represents the frequency under which a particular event has occurred. So for example, between this ozone 0 to 10, you have it occurred at 13 times. And over here between 10 to 20, you have it occurred between 34. So sorry, the 34 is a value that has been occurred. So on and so forth. And there is one null. I'm not sure why it is coming. Maybe there was a null value which probably I have not seen it in ozone, so I'll just hide it. And so that's basically indicates the shape of the data, which is right now, if you see over here, is bit right skewed. But that's not how you generally decide whether this is the shape or not. Generally they try to play with the ozone bin. So what is ozone bin? Bin is basically this range which has been automatically created. So 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 30, 40. All of these bins have been created for us by default. So what I can do is come over here and click on edit. So suggested bin size is this. However, I can go ahead and change it to whatever I like. So for example, I like 5 and click OK. So still there is nothing much of a change. And if I just go ahead again and let's say this time I say 20, and again there is nothing much of a change. So when I am increasing or when I'm decreasing the value, it does not really reflect a lot of change into a shape. So that means I can simply go ahead now by this structure, which I believe represents a better structure of looking at this particular data. Now if I have, let's say, this ozone, which is indicating that it's basically a the right skewed chart which we are seeing over here. And if I create a new sheet and now try to do the similar stuff on solar and try to understand the shape, click over here, and solar, if you see, is completely opposite. It's basically bit left skewed in this case. So over here it's right skewed, and in this case it's left skewed. Again, you can play with the solar bin by going into the edit mode and changing the value as per your need. So for example, if I change it to 10, let's say, this is how it looks like. So I will press Ctrl C or Ctrl Z to come back to the previous stage, and I can then play with something which is increasing. So 30 in this case, let's say. Again, there is nothing much of a change, but I believe the previous chart or the previous shape of the chart was reflecting the much better value. So over here, I think that's what it is. So it basically represents that values are condensed towards the higher side, and in case of ozone, the values are condensed towards the lower side. And so this is basically our solar, and the third is basically the temperature. And if I go ahead and create a histogram of this, shows us a bit of a normal curve, however slightly skewed towards left side, but overall it represents the normal sort of a curve. So I'll just go ahead and click on edit, and let's say I say 2 in this case. Yeah, nothing much of a change. Even I think 1 is better in this case because it's a temperature. Okay, so nothing much of a change. I think even 2 was representing the similar picture, slightly skewed on the left side, and we are seeing that mostly it is on the higher side of the temperature. So now we have understood the shape of the data, that about the temperature, about the solar, about the ozone, about whether it is a right skewed or a left skewed, which basically gives us an indication where most of the values are concentrating. The next step is basically to understand the correlation. And before I do, what I can do is simply create one more chart, and for the wind I can go ahead and create the histogram, and it looks like perfect, almost perfect normal chart compared to temperature, which is like slightly left skewed. So temperature, and this is wind. This looks like a very much a normal curve. If you don't know what it is, I suggest Google it. You will find countless articles or tutorials about it, which is pretty good before as compared to my explanation. But if you already know this, you understand that it's basically a normal behavior from the wind, which is pretty much on the lower side, having the same bars which is on the right hand side, which is an increased or the higher side. So after that, let's try to understand the correlation piece. So correlation, let's say, between ozone and temperature, because we are looking to see what are those things or what are those variables which are impacting temperature. So once we have understood the shape of the data, let's try and create the scatter chart to understand the correlation piece. Analysis, aggregate measure. So temperature is here, which basically indicates that temperature is increasing when there is some increase in the ozone. So what I want to really understand is basically by month. So if I bring the month over the color and change the color, let's say edit, and let me take these three and make it a step of 5 because we have 5 months. So click apply and OK. So now if you see, we have this ozone is going high and temperature is going high, and over here ozone is low and temperature is also low. So seems like there is a correlation, and just to confirm that, what we can do is come over here in analytics and pick the trend line over here, which is like a linear, clearly a positive upward correlation. That means it is a very significant variable that we have for this analysis. So if I click over or hover my mouse over to this line, you can see the equation as well, that right now it is predicting the ozone in this case, but what I can do is basically swap it from here or press Ctrl W. So if I swap it, it will start predicting the temperature for me. So now you see the temp is coming as an independent variable and saying the particular value, which is I think it is 200,057 multiplied with ozone plus 69.3706, which is basically an unexplained the intercept, and the r squared 0.48796 indicates that it's relatively important variable, not very high, but it can be considered if we compare a couple of other variables. And p-value of 0.001 statistically indicates that this variable or this equation can be accepted, and we can start having the prediction within this range of the data to identify what will be the next temperature. So that's, we can say, ozone temp correlation, and then we try to do it with solar and temp correlation, and come over here, come to analysis, uncheck the aggregate measure over here, bring the month over here, and again go to color, edit color, and over here again I'll choose this stepped color, 5 is fine, click OK and swap it. So temp is over here, solar is here. Seems to be a correlation, as the solar is increasing, there is a slight increase, but there is nothing very significant which I can see when I look at the various months and the temperature and the values of the solar. If you see the shape of this data, it reflects that there is nothing very high correlation which is present. So to confirm that, again let's go into the analytics, bring the statistical linear line over here, and if you see this, even the statistical line is showing the r squared value, which basically indicates a contribution of the variable into the independent variable is 0.07, which is like very weak. If it is more towards 1, which is like 0.80, 0.9, 0.7, 0.95, then we can accept it. So here when we are thinking about our model or the statistical model, this particular property does not really reflect, or this chart basically indicates that solar does not really contribute into the temperatures, which based on the data that we have collected. So let's give it a name, keep the same format, solar temp correlation. And now let's bring the another one, which is wind and temp. Okay, and come to show me and click over here, go to analysis, uncheck aggregate measure. So if I don't do anything right now, I can clearly see that there is a negative correlation. So if you look at this data points, this is indicating that it is going towards downward side, right? So if I bring the month information on the color and click on color, edit color, we'll do the same setting. Red, blue, I guess that's the one. If not, that's also okay. So that's the temperature showing us negative, that as the wind is increasing, there is a decrease in the temperature. Just to confirm that, again, we will go to analytics, bring the trend line over here, and it shows that there is a negative correlation. But again, if you see negative correlation, the value of temp equals to minus 1.19, which is basically indicating that as the wind is increasing, the temperature will be decreasing. But the R-square value again suggests that it's not a very important variable, or wind does not really contribute a lot in temperature. So this way you look at the R-square, and the p-value is less than 0.001. That means it suggests that this variable can be accepted. So it's up to us, based on then the subject matter expertise, or the person who is the business functional person or the SME can then help us decide whether we want to contribute it by doing some more experiment with the data, or predicting on the new data. And then basically come up with the entire model. So we have done this pretty much with every variable over here, if you see. So we'll give this a name, which is wind temp correlation. It's basically a visual correlation. If you see, it's nothing like I have used the Corel function, or CORREL. Yeah, that's the function. If I just go ahead and click on create calculated field and come over here, CORR, not CORREL. I guess it's in either ClickSense or ClickView, it is Corel. So here it is CORR, and it's basically two variables it takes. Here in this case they have given sales and profit, but it basically indicates that temp and solar, ozone and temp, and ozone and temp and wind, all of this you can basically identify the actual correlation value. So I really recommend as an example or as an exercise for your home exercise or the homework, you basically use the Corel function, CORR function, core function, and try to identify the actual correlation value. So here I can see that it's negative, but what is that specific negative value or the negative correlation value? It should be between -1 to +1. So suggest me what is that value, and write it in the comments if you can figure it out. Okay, so let's move on. The next thing I want to do is I want to somehow automate this so that I don't have to show 3 different dashboards or 3 different charts, like ozone, solar temp, wind, and then ozone temp correlation, solar temp correlation, and wind temp correlation. All of this thing I really don't want to show it to my users. I just want that I give them the flexibility where they can select the ozone, solar, temp, wind, whatever variable they want, they can select it and then put it on the chart dynamically, without my need or without the developer's intervention. And they can also be able to change their respective bin size so that they can play around with it. If someone is really into statistics and really want to play around with this, we want to give them the flexibility so that they have all the power in their hand to do the analysis. So for that, what I need to do is basically the architecture for creating this thing lies in the heart of creating parameters and then attaching that parameter to a calculated field. So let's try to first automate the histogram. Okay, so what I'll do is I will click over here and click on create parameter and call this parameter measure. It will be a string because I want to select the name of the measure, and the name of the measure is nothing but the string. So I'll click on list because it will be a list of values which I want to give it to the user for selection, and name is the same name, ozone and solar, and then wind and temp. Okay, and after that click OK. Alright, and click over here, click on show parameter control. Once we show the parameter control, once you try to select anything, it will not change anything because we have not done any setting so far. So what do we do is come over here and click on create calculated field, and let's say selected measure, and over here we need to write a statement or a control statement which can pick the value from here and control the behavior of the of our calculation, and then accordingly update the chart. We will see how we can apply that calculation. So selected measure, we will use the case statement. Case is measure. In this case measure when, so when the value, when it's ozone, when user is selecting ozone, then populate the ozone field. That's how you should basically, if you are a beginner, that's how you should try to write your expression. When user is selecting solar, then the field should be solar. When user is selecting temp, then field should be temp. Else, that means finally, it will be wind. Okay, and end. So if you see, my calculation is valid, and I can click apply and OK. All right, and what I can do now is remove this and remove this. I select my selected measure, click on show me and click over here. So once I do that, the measure is coming over here and selected measure is here. Selected measure bin is created, and now by default ozone is selected, but if I want solar, here is my solar chart which is now dynamic. Here is my wind. Oh, so this over here, this is a problematic thing, and if I try to change the bin size, if you remember at the start of the video how we did it, it's basically going over here and change the bin size by going to edit mode. But now if I do change the edit mode or change the bin size over here, it will be changed for every single different chart that I'm creating, or the histogram that I will be selecting with the help of this measure. So what do I need to do? Well, I need to come over here and click on create new parameter. Okay, and it's basically call it a bin size, current value 11.9. that's okay. We want to give a range. Range should be 1 to 100, let's say, and 1 to 100, and step size should be 5. Let's give it like little bit high. I see that there were values which were beyond 100, so let's give it like 300 and click OK and click OK. So now the bin size is over here, if you see. So 5, or if I say 10, so there is 11 which is coming. And so what do we need to do in this case is we need to change the bin interval. So over here click on edit and bin size. So what I need to do is come over here on the parameter, edit, and so minimum, let's call it, we are already at 1, step size looks okay, and current value to me doesn't look okay. So what I'll do is change it to just 1 and click OK. Yeah, now it is coming perfect, which I want. So bin size is 1 and there is a step size of 5, and then it's basically giving me what I need. And I can change, let's say, this to 5 or 10, because we have 1 already over there, so it is increasing. So if I enter 10, it will increase 11. So that's how I can basically go ahead and change the bin size for all of my values which are coming. So over here I need to give probably 20, and now the value is coming properly. So this is how you can basically automate entire thing, or all the different charts that we have created. So let's call it automated. Okay, and now if we are going to correlation, we will going to be using the similar sort of functioning that we have created. So temp, in this case, temp will be at the same place, but the selected measure over here will be something different, right? So come over here and click on show parameter control. So right now it is showing you the correlation between solar and temp, which is nothing but this, which you can see it's pretty similar. So if I go back, solar, ozone, and then wind. So this way all of my calculation or all of my charts are now pretty much automated, which I can then put it in my dashboard if I want. So click temp. Temp will be, so over here you have temp, here also you have temp, and you will see a complete fine correlation. So no point in using that. So what do we need to do finally for this case study is create one simple dashboard, bring the automated chart first over here. All right, no worries if it is coming like this, and then bring the, or I'll bring this as a first one because this looks much more attractive over here, and we will give it a name which is call it, oh, this is blank, I need text, so call it text. Air quality, New York air quality data analysis. Okay, we can change the font and everything, like right click on format text object, how we want the alignment and all of that sort of things about it. If I double click, select this, change it to something like 20, change the color to red over here, New York, or maybe make it like bold a little bit. Click OK, and I can drag it over here. So now you see we have this measure. We need to make sure that measure is changing both of these. So if I just try to select, let's say, solar, it's just changing this, it's not changing it over here. So what I need to do is click on more options, and over here this parameter is, so I think this is doing the work basically, because it's not a filter specific to a sheet but a parameter related to both the sheets, so it should work. So let's try to change it. So yeah, wind is according to that, it is changing, solar it is changing, and ozone it is changing. One last piece, if you just have observed, it is not changing the value over here, which is ozone temp correlation. So what I can do is double click over here. It's saying the sheet name, but what we can do is we can from here try to see what we can do. So parameter measure, basically dash or a hyphen, and then temp correlation, click apply and okay. So ozone temp correlation, yeah, ozone we have selected, solar temp correlation. So it has become much more user friendly now. And finally over here, the bin size is something which is problematic. So I think we need 1 as a bin size for this, which user can play around with it. Apart from this, if you want these things or these values to be somewhere else, like over here, bin size beside to that, create sometime an issue, but what I'm just trying to give you some of the options about how these things can work, but I think it was fine earlier. So Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, and everything is fine. Looks fine to me. So this is a simple air quality dashboard that has been created with the correlation, with the histogram, everything. I am even giving them the R-square value, P value, as well as the equation of the line which is coming as a dashboard developer or as an analyst, and helping them understand how the change in temperature is happening based on the different measures that they are selecting. So basically making it more and more interactive for my user. So that's pretty much it that I have for you in this video about creating a dashboard for statistical applications like this. I hope you have found it useful, and I will meet you in the new case study or in a new project with some new type of data, and we will look at some more interesting features over there.